Shall we get ready to go? It's time for Legends from the Ladders. That's right. Let's hop back into the pubs and see what's happening. It's time to check in with our boy Lee going up against one of the Golden Eight. That's right, if you remember that far back. Because it is, of course, gonna be versus Vortex. Okay, full disclosure, I might be wrong on this. I know it's one of them. I can tell it's one of them. I've watched so many Lucifer on Vortex games that it's one of them. The problem is, like, some of their strategies, like, they kind of share, if you know what I mean. Like, the same way, like, Puppy Paw and Wham will have things they do differently, they'll also have things that you can kind of see in common. We watched a game of Inuit Copetus the other day, and I watched another one since. The playstyle does look like Vortex's. This could be where I could be convinced otherwise, though. On a map like Dry Arabia, I think Lucifron has a little bit more of a tailored style than Vortex that makes him different than other players. We'll have to see, though. It's definitely one of the two bros. Like, you know, the joke that goes around is if you look at the top 20 accounts, you know, if you can't identify the Smurf, it probably belongs to Lucifron or Vortex. As the ones that are belonging to Puppy Paw Wham are identified, the ones belonging to Beastie, to Muslim, those type of people, and Marine Lord also get identified. But we get some Leenock either way, man. Up against one of the Spaniards, man. I'm looking forward to this one because it's good old heavy cavalry, right? French versus Rus, the possibility? No, I wouldn't jump to conclusions there, folks. Not the same way that I jump to conclusions about who is who in this one. Because this is a little bit of an interesting one. French players, they do definitely want to go for their knights, but a lot of Rus players won't rush towards the same conclusion. What you'll usually see in the high level, actually, is some of these Rus players will just get 2-3 knights max, and they won't clash. They'll just try to get into their opponent's base and force them defensive. Curious to see how Leenock will address that potential threat, especially considering how brutally open his spawn is. His woodline is safe and everything else is not. Going on the food sources, going on the gold, there's risks associated. Even the gold here that looks like it's safe, look at the fishing game. You could be ambushed very easily on your gold line. So we'll have to see if that gets utilized by Vortex at all. First things first, though, we have to think about the possibility for a boar play. And looking at the generation, the boars are not desirable in this matchup. They're way too far out, especially against a French player. Would not expect Vortex to go for it, because I think it would actually just be committing Sudoku with the Roost. Like, you would be caught out trying to go for this play. The reason is that if you think about timings, French players usually tech up around 5 minutes, and then they take another 30 seconds to push their first knight. Usually you see the tech up and then the pull happen at about 4.5 minutes for the Rus. But this trek is going to take a very long time. Then once you arrive, you have to kill the boar. You have to set up defenses. By then, you could easily have one knight mauling you to death, 2 or 3 villagers dead. It's just not worth the risk. Instead, what you might actually see could be the Vortex saves up the gold, goes for a double buy onto the stone, and then drops a TC here. I think this would be a remarkably effective TC placement. You get the deer, you get the safety on your initial wood line, and you can connect your bases, which is usually the type of boxes you're looking to tick up against the French. And also, you don't have to worry about the gold as much because it is on the backside more protected. First things first, though, Golden Gate coming out. Wheelbarrow about to complete as well, so if he wants to go for that shift towards a boar or some sort of proxy base play, the timing is coming up quite well. Leenock on the other side, I wouldn't be surprised if he considers going for a second TC. I think a lot more French players are engaging this build, especially on a map like Dry Arabia. If he does, I'd love to see him whip one out of Lucifron and Vortex's book. Well, actually, I think it's more of a Lucifron move. I've always kind of related to him, and that's the TC drop on the edge of the map. There's a really good opportunity here with the small tree lines as well as the deer stack would be premium opportunity, because what that would allow Leenock to do is draw all of his attention towards the Roost base and worry less about defending, because one of the advantages of an edge TC drop is that you don't have to worry about flank attacks. It's very obvious when your opponent's coming in and you can easily quickly react to it. Vortex. Looking like a damn good start to this game. It's going to be a 300+ bounty game. This is going to finish off another wolf. I think that is actually maybe still another wolf or two out there to be picked. Could be wrong about that, though. There's always one sneaking about. Okay, so it looks like that's going to be the last of them. There's still a few sheep remaining. Overall, this is going to be about a 350 bounty game, or close to. That's actually really good. Anything above 300 is good. The raw gold input is useful as well. It means at the beginning of this tech up, Vortex can instantly drop a stables and get a knight out if he chooses. The alternative is he just saves this gold now and goes for the secondary TC we talked about. Of course, tech up will come out first for the Rus. I do actually believe that the Rus have the quickest tech up average of any civ in the game. I'd love to see stats from this. The one civ that might be able to compete is the HRE because of how quickly they gather with the Prelate. Chinese, I would say no, just because a lot of Chinese builds historically have had delays in their tech up timing because they want to gather more and more. In theory, if the Chinese always went for the quickest tech up timing, they'd beat the Rus average. But it's just because Rus go around hunting, they gather all this bounty up, they get free gold, enough to get wheelbarrow earlier than practically any other civ in the game, and then still afford their tech up at a remarkable timing. It's such a big booster. And I think this is going to be the 2 TC play. Usually when you see a Rus player open with racks like this, they're willing to admit they're full defensive. So I'd expect him to just hoard the wood, get the remaining gold together, and then go for the stone buy. He's already got 2 tickets, needs a third for it. And it looks like he's going to go on the gold. So what this now allows him to do, especially when it's 5 people going out like this tells me it's probably going to be a double TC play into Night Push, which I really like. I genuinely think that when you're playing Rus versus French, you shouldn't get deterred by the fact that French Knights are better, because your goal isn't to fight the French Knights. Your goal is to kill their economy. And there'll definitely be plenty of that to kill. As it looks like Lenok is going to be going onto the stone for that secondary TC we mentioned. Curious to see if he goes to the spot we talked about. I don't really see anywhere else you want to secure. You could argue maybe the wood line. I think food's more important for the French at this stage. It opens some more doors for you than the wood will offer. Meanwhile, back at home, it looks like he didn't even go for the knight. He got enough to get the stone and then pull back. And it is now going to be that drop of the TC where we expected on the deer. A little bit disappointed that there's no extra gold gathering, just because I think there is a lot of value in hanging around there to get 1 or 2 knights out. And to be honest, you've just idled all those villagers walking over there in the first place, right? So maybe there would have been a bit more bang for buck that way. It also would have allowed you to apply pressure on this extension TC that you should know the French are going to go for. And in fact, Vortex can see that very clearly now that it is going to be that secondary TC build. In fact, at this rate, Lenok could think about free. It would be incredibly greedy, but no, I don't think you go free here. I think the problem with going free in this situation is you just don't have enough food secured. And he's going to move for the food and gold, but it's berries he's securing. This doesn't feel good. I hope he goes back for the deer on the backside, because I think actually deer as the third TC inflates eco enough you can afford free TCs in the first place. And alongside it, you'll be able to get the wood together for the farm extensions on the back. For now, you can see it's just going to be the 2 TC opening from both players. Definitely feel like Vortex got better value out of this. Getting the deer is just an obvious one. We're talking 0.66 food per second on berries compared to 0.84 on deer. There's no way that you can compete. That's before we even talk about the fact that, of course, the Rus get an increased gathering rate, an extra 10% in there. So actually, the gathering rate on these deer for the Rus exceed boar default gathering rates. And unless Lenok wants to even go and get the horticulture, which I don't expect to happen very early on, he's not going to be able to remotely compare to this. Would love to see survival techniques coming out from Vortex, though. So cheap now and so efficient in this situation. Instead, Vortex has another goal in mind. It's going to be an extension for a third TC. Yes! I love this. This is actually the right way to go. It's going to drop on another deer stack as well. So much food is going to be banked. The reason why he's going to want to prioritize the deer over the boar, less risk associated, and deer is still good enough that the rate inflation you get in your economy is going to allow you to A, support 3 TCs worth of production, but B, also hit a 12 to 13 minute max castle age timing. Especially considering that Lenok so far hasn't really been showing aggression. He's only now got 2 knights, third soon to come out. And he's so busy kind of focusing on defense, he hasn't been able to do anything aggressive. Okay, this is kind of crafty from Vortex. This Spearman got scouted, and he has to be chased, because Lenok's now paranoid that a boar player is coming out. So he's going to waste time chasing the Spearman. A Spearman that actually gets value. This unit costs 80 resources, the Scout costs 70. And the Scout is more important, because now your Knight is playing blind. You don't know where Vortex is. You only know about this extension TC that you can't really raid. Yeah, you can't even risk going in. And so far, it actually feels like Vortex has Lenok's number. I think that Vortex done this spear play north to try and bait attention from Lenok. He's going to waste his first few valuable knights looking in all the wrong places now. You can see he's cycling this area. Wouldn't be surprised if he actually checks the ball. In fact, it looks like because there was a spearman up here, Lenok is probably going to keep patrolling left and right just because he's paranoid that there might be a ball play down the line. We talked about the idea of survival techniques. Is now coming into the picture for Vortex. To make those rates plump and juicy. Be over 1 food per second per villager on these deer. Mwah. Still a magnifique. And not looking so magnifique is Lenok's composition. They're going for the early archers, but no way breaching right now. This is kind of problematic. Lee, the problem of what he's doing here is he went for archers. He does have decent amounts of wood, but the food is what I'm worried about. You're pushing knights. You're also wanting to inflate your archer count, but you're gathering berries everywhere. Everything is berries. And now you're adding in racks as well. This is a dangerous game Lenok's playing. He has a very clear timing in mind in the next 4 minutes to kill the game. Otherwise, it's going to kill it the other way. Because you know that Vortex is escalating. You can just see the eco count already in his favor. On top of that, in the next 3 minutes, Castle becomes feasible. For the time being, it looks like he has gone for those knights we talked about. Love this play. I think with him being on double deer stack, he can get a lot more knights out in the French. It's not something you get to say often against the French, but it's true here, and it's worrisome because although you have better quality per knight, you're now at risk of being overwhelmed. We talked about that timing. He's in for it. Siege engineering has been researched, the first ram coming up. Lenok does know about this extension TC. He's going to try to force Vortex to commit to a defense. Well, right now, Vortex in the wrong location. Villagers. Whoopsie. I have to pull away. Interesting that they're gathering on the lumber camp here, considering that the Wooden Fortress, it doesn't affect this, so you won't even get an extra 20% drop-off playing that side. Looks like he will peel them back, though, to the right side. And a lot of people now working on wood. 25, in fact. Looks like Vortex, maybe he's trying to play around tickets, but hasn't stockpiled that many. Maybe he's thinking about going into archers himself, but for the time being, it looks like it's going to be more cavalry. He preps the knights. Ram is going to go into the secondary TC. I'm starting to question whether he even noticed this one. Because if he did, Lenok would definitely went for the third TC. It's so exposed. It's such an easy target. Instead, he goes on to the secondary. Secondary that's already had all the deer dried. That's a problem. It means that Vortex, despite the fact that he went very greedy, he's actually not being punished to the extent he should be. He's still getting to have his cake. Sure, he won't get to eat it, but he can at least stare at it. Maybe eventually sell it to a willing customer. My advice to Lenok would be to not buy that cake, though. It's made of mud. This is looking muddled right now. Just a few spearmen coming out to defend isn't good enough. Knights see an opportunity to go. Meanwhile, the Royal Knights get pinched on the wood line, trying to get greedy. And on their exit, a few of them are going to go down to the spearmen. Vortex on point with the pullback. Good micro there. Gets out before the spearmen could be a real threat here, as the numbers were escalating. This is where you'll see the archer ranges that we were waiting for finally being dropped. He was just trying to gather enough wood. So you will start to get the counter out. And remember, one brilliant thing about the Roosters with their inflated wood gathering rates, they can escalate their military production lines faster. And if you have to resort to archers, they'll always have the edge. Rams did finally spot the other TC, moving in now. Vortex at risk. Villagers need to get out. Reinforcements soon to arrive. Garrison's going to be there. Nice micro. He gets out on the north side, starts to torch down on the Rams, and Knights have arrived. Spearmen completely out of position. Mistakes made by Lenok, at risk of losing the entire army. And you have to question mark whether he's going to get the true value for it. Because this TC is going to remain. His army is not. In fact, looking at the military count, it's double now in favor of Vortex. So many Knights going down. Practically all of them are going to be killed off. Lenok getting ambitious. Vortex, man, that was chef la premium. He shifts villagers south side. He baits his opponent in. Once he's on that south side, he ungarrisons north, tortures the ram, gets the villagers inside safely, and bogs down Lenok's melee, attacking nothing. What a move. Small micros like that, man. That's why this is considered this guy's considered one of the best players in AoE. That type of micro, that quick reaction, changed everything about that assault. And now Lenok quadrupled up when it comes to military. His knight count down to 4. Meanwhile, 10 knights in the field for Vortex and playing still off of pocket ecos to ensure he always has food. Ball getting clubbed down. Means if he goes to the northern one, that's also going to be the next level to the bounty system, unlocked. But that's not his main focus. No, no, no. Vortex instead has something else in mind. Siege engineering has been researched. 900 wood has been saved up. It's time to give Lenok a taste of his own medicine. Lenok is not prepared for what's coming. Nice. Just to threaten him, say, get back. You can't see the Rams until they're complete. And then you won't like him. The wall's going up as Lenok is now also forced to play greedier and greedier with his pocket ecos. Lifelines that will keep him alive for the moment. But long term, there are big question marks to be had here. Rams. Target onto the extension base. Sensible choice here. Wants to take away Lenok's scalability. A few spearmen will dive in onto the barriers just to try and harass and be annoying. No textiles either, so Lenok can lose villages very quickly here. As you're about to see, a few going down the gold vein. Torches out. Time to take out that TC quicker than Lenok took out the over. Lee still not ready. I mean, he's still being doubled up. And pretty much the entire army is here, by the way. Like, you can see that Vortex isn't building that many new troops. He stopped the archers. It's only new knights. Wouldn't be surprised if he tries to go for a boom. Go up in the castle now. A few knights are going to pressure him, but the damage is irrelevant. Meanwhile, the damage being done on the other side is emphatic. Archers baiting the knights. Not going to last long here, though. Exit. He's going to sacrifice some more spearmen. And now the Rams can move in. Vortex floating a lot of wood could easily double the amount of Rams in, double the pressure. So many archery rangers, yet so lacking in that department. So lacking in the front line as well. So feels like the archers are somewhat irrelevant. Knights move in. Pinch a bunch straight away. Rams now in on that infrastructure I just mentioned. And Lenok, this is done. No way that he can get an army together anymore. Villagers about to go idle. Look at that pullback. 24 villagers say no. They take a break day. And they didn't even schedule the holiday. This is as much a holiday as it is a massacre. Now 30 ahead. Lenok yet to wave that white flag, but you feel like it has reached that point. Everything's idle, nothing left. Man, that maneuver, that moment, Vortex, when he came to defend his third TC, that detail around the micro with the villagers was critical. If that TC goes down, maybe you can see a trade, maybe you can see some flexibility and a quicker engagement, but that body block of the building in the way gave so much room to Vortex, enough for him to take a clear victory in that fight and then never stop from that point on. Great win coming out. Showing you exactly why him and his bro have so many accounts in that top 20.